What is up, everybody? It is Sunday.
Sunday, Sunday, fun day.
Sunday. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's time for the chaos. Do you know where your cryptids are?
Mine's sitting back here on the wall.
All right. So last week, we gotta make up for last week's show. We'll do what we can.
Nice.
So this week.
What we got?
This week we're talking about Betty and Barney Hill. We are in Alien Abduction Month.
Woohoo!
And we've got a great little piece of literature from the CIA, the unclassified document on Betty and Barney Hill, straight from CIA.gov. Tammy is in the house.
Hey.
So here's the one thing you got to remember, people. If you get online and you look in the right spots, you can find all kinds of wonderful, happy documents that you might not ever know of. CIA is always declassifying material. The Senate, the Congress, they're always putting out their House bills. All you got to do is look it up, print them out. You can read everything. It's all part of the public administration to let you know what's going on. You just gotta look around.
They're just cleaning house. That's all they're doing. Making room for
Yep.
some new classified crap.
But luckily, this one was approved for release 4/2/2001. So they released it. Yeah, it's been out for a while. By the way, don't go to CIA.gov and look for declassified documents. You'll be up for hours and days, and your mind will be blown.
Unless you want your mind blown. I mean, go ahead otherwise.
Well, we're all used to the rabbit hole, so.
Oh, yes. The provable rabbit hole. So, Betty and Barney Hill.
Betty and Barney Hill!
Yes.
Fine looking couple. So we're gonna read through all this. Well, not all of it. It's 29 pages. We're gonna skim through the good parts that just tell us what we need to know. September 19th, 1961. Barney Hill and his brand new wife, Betty, began a night drive from the Canadian border down US 3 through the White Mountains on their way home to Portsmouth, New Hampshire after a short vacation. Just after 10, their car was winding along the flat ground of the upper Connecticut River Valley. Betty enjoyed watching the brilliance of the moon reflecting on the valley and the mountains in the distance. To the left of the moon and slightly below it, she noticed a particular bright star. Perhaps it was a planet, she thought, because of its steady glow just south of Lancaster. She became intrigued by another star or planet, a bigger one, which had suddenly risen above the other. As she watched, the new celestial glow appeared to be getting bigger. It's never things you want to have. Jade says, I like their dog. Their dog was not on the trip with them.
Actually,
No
I
dogs.
think he was.
You think? I don't know.
From what I was reading earlier, yes, the dog was with them.
But the dog wasn't probed or hurt, hopefully. Because then we'd have to go John Wick and
in the
aliens.
vehicle.
Good. No John Wick situation here.
No John Wick.
For a while, she said nothing to her husband. Finally, when the strange light grew brighter, she nudged Barney, who slowed the car and looked out the right-hand side of the windshield. When I looked at it first, Barney Hill later said, it didn't seem anything peculiar, unusual, except that we were fortunate enough to see a satellite. It had no doubt gone off its course, and it seemed to be going along the curvature of the Earth. It was quite a distance out. It looked like a star in motion.
Mm-hmm.
They drove on, glancing at the bright object frequently, finding it difficult to tell if the light itself was moving or if the movement of the car was making it seem to move. It would disappear behind trees or a mountaintop, then reappear as it cleared the obstruction. Delcy, the Hill's Dachshund, became restless. Yes, there we go. Delcy the Dachshund was in the car. Yes, James the King is right.
Of course.
There's 29 pages here, man. There's a lot to read. A lot to remember. Let me see. As became restless, Betty suggested they should walk her. At the same time, they could get a better look at the book. Barney pulled the car over to the side of the road where there was reasonably unobstructed visibility. And now, of course, you pulled over on the side of the road with a weird thing happening. How many horror movies have we seen? I know this was back in 61, but they had horror movies in 61.
Absolutely.
Kind of the same. Don't pull over.
Never.
All right, so Betty walked Delcy along the side of the road. She was now sure that the star or the light, or whatever it was definitely moving. When Barney joined her, she handed Delcy's leash to him, went back to the car, and returned with a pair of binoculars. Barney was still convinced that they were observing a strange satellite. So Barney is a skeptic.
Absolutely.
When Barney joined her, she had been on a leash. So the events that they were observing. After a few moments, they resumed their journey. The object continued its unpredictable movement. The hill stopped briefly several times. At one of the stops, a few miles north of Cannon Mountain, Betty said, "Barney, if you think that's a satellite or a star, you're being absolutely ridiculous." It's a commercial plane, Barney now concluded, probably on its way to Canada. So he's still fighting it like an old horror movie. Absolutely. Honey, there's a mass murderer downstairs. Nah, you're wrong. It's a dog. It's a commercial plane, probably on its way to Canada. Around 12 o'clock, they approached the enormous and somber silhouette of Cannon Mountain. Barney parked the car in a picnic area that commanded a wide view to the west. He looked again at the strange moving light and noted that it swung suddenly from its northern flight pattern, turned to the west, then completed its turn and headed back directly toward them. The Hills got out of the car. Again, why are we getting out of the car? Never get out of the car. It's got to be a plane, Barney said. A commercial liner. With a crazy course like that, Betty asked, following him with Delcy. Then it's a Piper Club with some hunters who might be lost. It's not the hunting season, Betty said, as Barney took the binoculars from her, and I don't hear a sound, neither did Barney. It might be a helicopter, he said as they looked through the binoculars. He was sure that it wasn't, but was reaching for any kind of explanation that would make sense. The wind might be carrying the sound in the other direction. Honey,
Yeah, no.
It's coming right for us. Oh, it's a plane. It's swamp gas.
But they're not in the swamp.
Okay. Through the binoculars, Barney now made out a shape like the fuselage of a plane, although he can see no wings. He also saw a series of lights along the fuselage blinking in an alternating pattern. When Betsy took the glasses, the object passed in front of the moon in silhouette. It seemed to be flashing thin pencils of different colored lights. The object itself appeared cigar-shaped to her. It had increased its speed, then slowed down again as it crossed the face of the moon. The lights were flashing persistently, red, amber, green, and blue. Betty turned to her husband and asked him to take another look. It's got to be a plane, Barney insisted. Maybe a military plane, a search plane. Maybe it's a plane that's lost.
Plane that's lost. A plane that's lost. Okay. Yeah, I could see where they're thinking that it's a plane, but okay. Not a plane lost, though.
All right, so I'm not laughing at Betty and Barney Hill because what they're going to go through here towards the end is horrendous. But right now, it's kind of funny. Hey, there's something coming right for us. Now, that's a plane.
Let's get out of the car.
Let's get out of the car and take a look at it. Hey, it doesn't have any wings. It's a Piper jet. I don't hear any noise. It's the winds. He was irritated by Betty's refusal to accept any natural explanation. Several years earlier, Betty's sister and family had told about seeing an unidentified flying object in Kingston, New Hampshire, and Betty tended to believe the story. Barney insisted the idea that such objects existed. The dachshund was whining and cowered. Betty gave the binoculars to Barney and took Delcy back to the car. Barney focused the glass on the object and strained to hear a sound, the throb of a propeller-driven plane or the whir of a jet. He heard none. For the first time, he felt he was being observed, that the object was actually attempting to circle them. Getting back into the car, he told Betty that he felt the craft had seen them and was playing games with them. They drove slowly. Why do you drive slowly at this point? Hey, James, I feel as though that bright light is watching us and playing with us. Let's drive away slow. I understand it's 61, but, I'm sure they had a good car. What kind of car was it?
I wasn't going there.
It's a 61 something. All right. Through the binoculars under double. Both increased speed. And as the car moved past the blackness of the old man on the mountain, the object appeared again, gliding silently, leisurely, parallel to the car. It appeared to be only a few hundred feet to the right, above the car. Earlier it seemed to be spinning, now it was still, and the former blinking, multicolored lights gave off a steady white glow. Through the binoculars, Betty saw a double row of windows. It was clearly a structured craft of enormous dimensions. Just how large she couldn't determine because both distance and altitude were hard to judge. As she watched a red light come out of the left side of the object, followed by a similar one on the right. Barney, she said, stop the car and look. You've never seen anything like this in your life.
Again, why are we stopping the car?
Barney stopped the car at Indian Head, took the binoculars, and got out. I'm going to get out and look at it.
They don't listen.
Oh, Barney. Barney stopped the car at Indian Head. The motor was still running. The object was hovering silently in the air, not more than a short city block away, not more than 2 treetops high. Its full shape was apparent to him the first time. That of a large glowing pancake. Do you see it? Do you see it? Betty had called. Her voice was rising. Later, Barney admitted frankly that he was scared, yet he walked a few feet forward and looked again. As he did so, the object, as wide in diameter as the distance between 3 telephone poles along the road, swung in a silent arc across the road, not more than 100 feet from him. The double row of windows were now clear. For a reason he cannot yet explain, Barney found himself moving across the road into the field, then across the field directly toward the mysterious object. The enormous disc was raked on an angle toward him. 2 fin-like projections on either side were sliding out, each with a red line on it. The windows curved around the perimeter of the thick, pancake-like disc, glowing with brilliant white light. Still, there was no sound. Shaken but finding an irresistible impulse to move closer, Barney continued to cross the field, coming within 50 feet of the craft as it dropped to the height of a single tall tree. In the car, Betty waited. Suddenly, she became aware of Barney's disappearance into the blackness of the field. Barney, she yelled. Barney, come back. Barney, do you hear me? There was no answer. Out of the field, Barney put the binoculars to his eyes. Behind the clearly structured windows, he could see at least a half-dozen living figures wearing black uniforms. Excuse me. They seem to be bracing themselves against the transparent windows as the craft tilted down toward him. They were staring directly at him. Betty, now nearly 200 feet away, was screaming at him from the car, but Barney had no recollection of hearing her. On some inaudible signal, every member of the crew but one stepped back from the window toward a large panel a few feet behind the window line. The remaining one appeared to Barney to be a leader. Through the binoculars, Barney could see appendages in action and what seemed to be a control board behind the windows of the craft. The craft descended lower, a few feet at a time, as the fins bearing the two red lights spread out further on the sides of the craft, and the extension began to lower from the underside. It seemed to be a ladder-like structure, but Barney could not be sure. In terror, he tried to pull the glasses from his eyes and turn away, but he couldn't. He remembers the eyes of one crew member who stared down at him. He had never seen eyes like that before. With every ounce of energy he could summon, he pulled the binoculars from his eyes, ran screaming back across the field to Betty and the car. He was nearly hysterical. He jammed the car into first gear, spurted off down the road, shouting that he was sure they were going to be captured. He ordered Betty to look out the window to see where the craft was. She looked, but the object was nowhere in sight. He yelled out that it may have swung above them. Betty checked again, but all she could see was total darkness. Suddenly they heard a strange electronic-sounding beeping. The car seemed to vibrate with it. It was from the regular rhythm, beep, 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 beep. And it seemed to come from behind the car, possibly from the trunk. "What's that noise?" Barney asked. "I don't know." They began to feel an odd tingling sensation that kind of daze overcame them. Sometime later, how long they were not sure, they were again aware of the beeping sound. They were alert now to a more precise pattern of the beeps. Beep, 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 beep. As the second set of beeps grew louder, their awareness slowly returned. They were still in the car, and the car was moving with Barney at the wheel. They were silent, numb, and somnambulistic. I don't know what that word means. A sign indicated that they were in the vicinity of Ashland, some 35 miles south of Indian Head, where the inexplicable beeping had first sounded. As the days dissolved, Betty Hill vaguely remembers saying to her husband, "Now do you believe in flying saucers?" And he recalls answers, "Don't be ridiculous, of course not." "You just saw something scary, Barney, and you don't believe?" But neither could remember much detail other than this until they had driven onto Route 93. Betty suddenly pointed to a sign reading Concord, 17 miles. "That's where we are, Barney," she said. "Now we know." Barney, too, remembers his mind clearing fully at that point, but he does not recall being disturbed or concerned about the 35 miles from Indian Head to Ashland, about which he seemed to remember nothing. It was nearly full daylight when they reached home. Both of their watches had stopped and never ran again. The kitchen clock read shortly after 5 a.m. They had experienced to reach home by 3. 3 hours of their lives were unaccounted for, yet neither seemed aware of the loss of this time until it was pointed out to them months later. During the silent drive, both Betty and Barney had looked to the sky at regular intervals, wondering if the strange object would appear again. Even after they went to the house, they found themselves occasionally drifting to the windows to look up into the morning brightness. Also, inexplicably, each had a strange, clammy feeling. Barney went into the bathroom to examine his groin and lower abdomen, which seemed to bother him. After he came out, they reviewed what had happened and resolved not to discuss it with anybody. Nearly 3 that afternoon, when they awoke, Barney began reviewing the experience of the night before. He was baffled, confused by the total lack of sound during the extended encounter. The figures he had seen aboard the craft, he shunted quickly out of his mind. He did not want to think about them. As Betty awakened, one of her first acts, why she never knew, was to take the dress and shoes she had worn during the experience and pack them in the back of her closet. She has never worn them since. Barney went over the clothes he had worn that night before and was discovered that his best shoes were scuffed along the tops. He wondered why only the tops were scuffed. it concluded that somewhere in that field he had dragged the tops of his shoes along some rocks. All right. Let's cover up. Let's cover what we got so far.
All right. Out of the car.
Betty and Barney Hill are out of the car, driving home. They lose a bunch of time.
Yeah, they lost about 2 hours?
3 hours. They lost 3 hours somewhere along the line. Yeah. Okay. And then Betty's clothing, actually, the dress was brand new. Mm-hmm. And it actually had like a cut.
Torn.
But she never wore it again. It sat in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading somewhere, she hadn't worn that dress. She pulled it out of the back of the closet something like 3 years later. And there was some sort of powder or some sort of residue on it. And they did some testing, and there was no conclusive, results from it. So the reports say.
Yeah, no, I do have the transcripts to all of their interviews that happened later on down the road.
Ah.
Oh, yes, this CIA report is very thorough.
Detailed? Ooh.
It is detailed. This is why you don't go to CIA.gov and look at all this declassified documents. All right, so basically they don't say much about it. They kind of put it aside. They don't want to deal with this. But basically, the Hills, after a while, they were starting having a bunch of nightmares. Betty was having visions of these aliens working on her. Yeah, pretty much nightmares.
Vivid nightmares.
Vivid nightmares. So, Betty Hill ended up writing... Where is this guy's name? I lost his name. Richard Hall. So Betty writes Richard Hall and basically says, "Hey, listen, we want to know what happened. This is kind of bad. We don't know what happened here." So then we go into this thing that was not like just a quick one and done scenario. This took years out of Betty and Barney Hill's life.
Yes.
And discussions and hypnotherapy.
Hypnosis and a bunch of weekends in therapy, hypnosis, thousands of dollars, and yeah.
So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because we're already at 24 minutes and I'm only on page, what? Page 3 at 29.
That right there gives a good jaunt, of what they experienced. They had their time with the hypnosis, trying to recall what had happened with them.
Yeah. I have 4 pages of the transcripts.
From those. Ooh.
From the hypnotherapy.
Wow, I guess I should have looked at those a little closer.
That's a few pages in.
That's all right.
I'm not gonna go through. Trust me, these are good reads.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I started reading on this actually earlier today, and I was getting really into it. I'm like, holy crap! So yeah,
all right, so I'll read a little bit because, like I said, it's 29 pages.
so you all know where to go if you want to read not 29 pages of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction.
CIA.gov. You can find a lot of declassified stuff on there. You will feel if you were on the X-Files.
There you go.
Yeah, this is not just some random web page we found. This is the CIA. This is the government paperwork. I mean, they drew up this report. So, I mean, you kind of have to look at the Betty and Barney Hill case and go, if the CIA is making a lengthy report.
Well, didn't Betty and Barney speak with someone from the Air Force?
They spoke with someone with the Air Force. They spoke to a lot of people.
Yeah.
They didn't really have a Men in Black scenario of don't talk to nobody.
No Project
It was
Blue
more,
Book?
I'm sure this might actually be part of Project Blue Book, really.
Ah.
I would not put it past that this is part of Project Blue Book. All right, so Doctor, you say looking over his shoulder, was he facing away from you? Barney, yes, he was facing a wall. There's an evil face on the... He looks like a German Nazi. He's a Nazi. He had a black scarf around his neck, dangling over his left shoulder. Doctor, he had a black scarf around his neck? How could you see the figure so clearly at that distance? Barney, I was looking at them with binoculars. Doctor, oh, did they have faces like other people? You said one looked like a red-headed Irishman. Barney, his eyes were slanted. Oh, his eyes were slanted, but not like a Chinese. Oh, I feel like a rabbit. I feel like a rabbit. Doctor, what do you mean by that? Barney, I was hunting for rabbits in Virginia, and this cute little bunny went into the bush that was not very big. And my cousin Marge was on one side of the bush, and I was on the other with a hat. And the poor little bunny thought he was safe.
What the hell?
It tickled me because he was just hiding behind a little stalk, which meant security to him. When I pounced on him and threw my hat on him and captured the poor little bunny, who thought he was safe. Funny, I thought of that. Right out of there on the field, I felt like a rabbit. So basically what he's saying is he kind of had that sense of putting himself in the rabbit's scenario of being
Going
hunted.
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, he felt like he was being hunted by the aliens. Doctor, what was Betty doing all this time? Barney, I can't hear her. Doctor, did you make any outcry to her the way you did to me? You would remember if you did. Barney, I did not. I know this creature is telling me something. Doctor, telling you something? How? How is this getting it to you? Barney, I can see it in his face. No, his lips are not moving, but he's looking at me, and he's just telling me, don't be afraid. I am not a bunny. I'm going to be safe. He didn't tell me I was that bunny. Doctor, did you hear him tell you this? Barney, oh no, he didn't say it. Doctor, you felt he said it. Barney, I know. Doctor, you know he said it? Barney, yes. Just stay there, he said. It's pounding in my head. I gotta get away. I gotta get out from here. Doctor, okay. Calm down. How can you be sure he was telling you this? Barney, his eyes. I've never seen eyes like that before. Oh, you can look up. Jade says, this is some Alice in Wonderland nonsense. It is. Doctor, you said they were friendly. Barney, not the leaders. I said the one looking over his shoulder. Doctor, how did you know the other one was the leader? Barney, because everybody moved. Everybody was standing there looking at me. But everybody moved. These levers were in the back. And they went to a big board. It looked like a board. And only this was with the black shiny jacket and the scarf swayed at the window. Doctor, he had slanted eyes. What did that make you think of? Barney, I don't know. I'd never seen eyes slanted like that. They began to be round and went back to like that and like that. And they went up like that. I'm driving. Doctor, you're back in the car now? Barney, yes. I'm getting a hold of myself. I'm saying to myself, remember, you've got fortitude. You can drive a car. And I told Betty to look out, and the object was still around us. I could feel it around us. I saw it when we passed by the object. When I got in the car, it had swung around so that it was out there. I know it was out there. Yeah, it's out there. I don't know where. That's funny. Oh, that's nice. They're in my brain. Please, can't I wake up? Doctor, stay asleep a little longer. You'll get through this. All right. Follow your feelings. Tell me. They won't upset you for much now. Barney, they're here. Isn't that funny? All the woods, the crazy dog. She stays in the car all the time. Isn't that funny? Doctor, she doesn't bark at anything? Barney, she just stays there. I don't understand. Are we being robbed? I don't know. Doctor, what makes you think you're being robbed? Barney, I know what's in my mind, and I don't want to say it. Doctor, well, you can say it to me. You can say it now. Barney, they're men, all with dark jackets, and I don't have any money. I don't have anything. I don't know. Oh, the eyes are these. Always the eyes are there, and they're telling me I don't have to be afraid. I'm not even afraid that they're not connected to a body. They're just there. They're just up close to me, pressing against my eyes. It's funny. I'm not afraid. So that's the script. Some of the transcripts
From Barney.
from Barney being underneath hypnosis.
Wow. Well, yeah, from what from what I've read, it's almost like Barney's just kind of being held in like a room or something, and just you know, he's just freaking out. But I'm sure you may go over some of the transcript from Betty, but it seemed like more things were involved with Betty and her time being,
Yeah, I've got a little bit more I'm going to read about Barney's, and then I'll flip to Betty's. Barney, I thought I was inside something, but I did not dare open my eyes. I had been told to keep my eyes closed by the man I saw through the binoculars. Doctor, was this one of the men on the road? Barney, no. These men in the road. They took me and carried me up this ramp. Doctor, carried you up the ramp? Barney, I know I was going up something and my feet were dragging. Doctor, these were the men who flagged you down? Barney, yes. Doctor, how many were there? Barney, I thought I saw a cluster of 6 men because 3 of them came to me and 3 did not. Doctor, how were they dressed? Barney, they were all in dark clothing and they were all dressed alike. Doctor, were they white men? Barney, I don't know why the color, but they did not seem that they had different faces from white men. Doctor, did they tell you why they were stopping you? Barney, they didn't tell me anything. They didn't say anything. Doctor, were these men holding you? Barney, they were by my side and I had a funny feeling because I knew they were holding me, but I couldn't feel them. I felt floating, suspended. I opened my eyes. Doctor, what did you see? Barney, I saw a hospital operating room. It was pale blue, sky blue, and I closed my eyes. Doctor, do you remember the operating room where you had your tonsils out? Was that the operating room in the hospital blue? Barney, no, it was bright lights, but this room was not like that. It was spotless. Doctor, did you feel like you were being operated on? Barney, no. Doctor, did you feel you were being attacked in any way? Barney, no. Doctor, you said your groin felt cold. Barney, I was laying on the table and I thought someone was putting a cup around my groin, and then it stopped, and then I thought, how funny. If I keep real quiet and real still, I won't be harmed, and it'll be over, and I will just stay here and pretend that I am anywhere and think of God and think of Jesus and think that I am not afraid. And then I'm getting off this table and I've got a big grin on my face. And I feel greatly relieved. And I am walking and I am being guided and my eyes are closed. And my eyes open and there is a car and the lights are off and the motor is not running. And Delcy is under the seat. I reached under and touched her. And she has a tight ball on her seat and I sit back. And I see Betty is coming down the road and she gets into the car. And I'm grinning at her and she is grinning back at me and we both seem so elated and we're really happy. And I'm thinking, it isn't too bad. How funny. I had no reason to fear. And we look and I see a bright moon and I laugh and say, well, there it goes. Doctor, you mean this object was good? The object was gone? Barney, yes, it was going. Doctor, going. Did you still see it? Barney, it was bright, huge ball, orange. It was a beautiful bright ball, and it was going and it was gone, and we were in the darkness, and I put on the lights in the car and looked down the road, and we began driving, and I could see a slight incline, and then I drove and came back to Route 3 because I was on a cement road, and Betty and I feel hilarious, like a feeling of well-being and great relief. So that's just some of it. There's a lot more to his business. So, I mean, you could kind of almost say that he drugged.
He's good, yeah. These are nice. Yeah, I mean, to me, it just feels, like he just brought out there in a holding pattern.
Well, I mean, they've got him on an operating table, and
a cup over his groin. What I find fascinating is, honestly, he's describing them as wearing outfits. I mean, if these are aliens, you wouldn't necessarily think they'd be wearing outfits. Just
maybe they're trying to make him feel better about the situation.
Possibly. It's
we do have a message that maybe the next time we get a transcript.
Yeah. Thanks to our.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do that with the Travis Walton investigation.
All right, we'll do that.
I'm sure I can find that case. All right, so that was some of Barney Hill's hypno regression. And you can find a lot of this online, the actual back and forth, the actual audio tapes of them talking about things. And, I mean, we're not doing this any justice.
No.
Because when you listen to Betty and Barney Hill doing the hypnotherapy, you can hear the fear in their voices on a lot of areas where they're terrified.
Yeah, I mean, earlier I was watching like 6-minute clips of those hypnotherapy sessions with Betty, and you could just hear it in her voice, the tone and everything. She was just freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they really did want to try and put this behind them and never look back at it.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So I'll cover a little bit of Betty's, and then, by the way, we're only on page 10 of 29.
Damn, dude.
Trust me, everybody. I mean, maybe I should. I'll put the link to the site up on Facebook.com/DBK Investigations. So if anybody wants to download this and print out all 29 pages and just sit and read it, it is intense. It's a good read. I mean, it's better than the Thunderbird.
Yes.
It is better than the Thunderbird. It is better than Random Thoughts. We're making it up to you, people. We have 2 stinker shows, and then we have 1 really good one. All right, so Doctor and Betty are talking. Doctor, did they make any sexual advances to you? Betty, no. I asked the leader. I said, why did they put that needle in my navel? And he said it was a pregnancy test. I said, I don't know what they expected, but there was no pregnancy test. They didn't say any more. Doctor, all right, we'll stop there for now. The Hills returned to the office for Betty's second session on March 14th, 1964. So now it happened in September 61. Now we're in 64. So it's still an ongoing scenario.
Yeah.
Doctor, about this needle, how far in did he inject the needle? Betty, oh, it was a long needle. I don't know. I thought it didn't look, but I would say the needle was about 4 inches long, 6 maybe. Something like a tube was attached to it. They didn't leave it in very long, just for a second. Doctor, what kind of pain was it? Betty, all I can think of was a knife. Then I was grateful to the leader for stopping the pain. And they said that this was the end of the testing. And the leader helped me up. I put my dress on, and I was going to zip it up, and he took hold of the zipper and zipped it up. So he's a gentleman. And then, I said, I can go now? I can go back to the car? And he said, Barney isn't ready yet. He said that they were doing a few more tests with him, but he'd be right along in a minute. I started talking with the leader, and I said to him that this had been quite an experience, that no one would ever believe me, that what I needed was some proof of this had really happened. He laughed and said, what kind of proof did I want? I said, well, if you can give me some to take back with me, then the people would believe it. And so he told me to look around and maybe I could find something I would like to take. And I did. And there wasn't much around. But on the cabinet, there was a book, a fairly big book. And I said, can I have this? And he told me to look in the book. And I did. It had pages, it had a writing, but nothing like I had ever seen before. The writing didn't go across, it went up and down. Doctor, did it look like any language that you know, or was it in English? Betty, no, it wasn't in English. Doctor, what language do you know that goes up and down? I don't know, but I can recognize it. I can't read it. Japanese. Doctor, Japanese. Did it look like Japanese? Betty, no. Doctor, was it writing or printing? Betty, it was different. It had sharp lines, and they were some very thin and some medium, but some were very heavy, and it had some dots. It had straight lines and curved lines. And the leader laughed, and he asked me if I thought I could read it, and I told him no. But this was going to be my proof that this happened. And so he said that I could have it. And I was delighted. So then I said, I knew he wasn't from the earth, and I wanted to know, where did he come from? And he asked me if I knew anything about the universe. And I told him no, I know practically nothing. And he went across the room, pulled out a map, and he asked me, had I ever seen a map like this before? There were all these dots on it, scattered all over it. Some were little, just pinpoints, and others were as big as a nickel. And there were lines going from one dot to another. And there were one big circle, and there were a lot of lines coming out from it. I'm hoping that feedback's coming out of your house, James.
What feedback?
I'm dumping the
Right.
music. Yeah, I think it was in the music because I thought I heard something talking.
Ooh, we got company.
Hey, I wouldn't doubt it. I lost where I was. There were lines going from one dot to another, and there was one big circle, and I had a lot of lines coming out from it. A lot of lines going to another circle, quite close, but not as big. And these were heavy lines, and I asked him what they meant. And he said that the heavy lines were trade routes. The other lines, the solid lines, were places they went occasionally. And he said the broken lines were expeditions. And I asked him where was his home port, and he said, "Where are you on this map?" I laughed and looked and laughed and said, "I don't know." So he said, "If you don't know where you are, then there isn't point in me telling you where I'm from." And he put the map away, and I thought, well, I still have the book. All of a sudden, some men came in with the examiner. They're quite excited. The examiner has me open my mouth, and he starts checking my teeth. And he tugs at them. I ask them what they're trying to do. The examiner says they could not figure it out. Barney's teeth came out, and mine didn't. I was really laughing and said, "Barney has dentures," and I didn't. They asked me, "What are dentures?" And I said, people as they get older lose their teeth. They go to a dentist and get dentures. Or a person sometimes, Barney had to have dentures because he had a mouth injury. He had to have his teeth extracted. I said, it happens to almost everyone as they get older. And he said, "What is older?" I said, "Old age." He said, "What is old age?" And I said, well, it varied. But as a person gets older, there are changes to him, particular physical. He begins to sort of break down, which with age. So he said, "What do I mean by age?" And I said, "The lifespan, the length of time people live." He said, "How long is this?" And I said, "Well, about 100 years at the most. People can die before that. Most of them do. I think the average life length of time, I don't know, was 65 or 70. So it said 65 or 70 what? I said, years. He said, "What is a year?" I'm skipping ahead because she just goes into
A bunch of questions and answers like that. Yeah.
yeah. Jade says the music stopped a few minutes ago. No, I just had it muted down quite a bit.
Yeah. Since you brought the music back up, now I'm hearing the feedback.
Yeah. So yeah, we go on for another 4 pages.
Back and forth like that, yeah.
Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, where the doctor's having her regress and they're talking about the aliens, or asking her questions and she's asking them questions. No, she does not get the book. The book never makes its way into her hands. Apparently they take it back.
Yep. They weren't too the others weren't too thrilled that she had it, so they took it back. Yeah.
And then we go into more. I mean, I'm looking at page. God, I don't know how many pages I'm in, but it's more the same of the transcripts of their hypno-regression. And it just keeps reading, going on and going on. Trust me, people, just get on the internet. Look up Betty and Barney Hill. This is better when you listen to it. So you can actually listen to the people, their tone of voice, how they're feeling about everything.
You can hear the fear in their voice. Definitely.
Yeah, I am doing a horrible job. That is why I am not an actor. I'm also getting over a little touch of pneumonia.
Oh yeah. Aren't we all?
We all barely survived. So basically, what had happened was after they were the authorities were doubting the Hills' testimony before the hypnotherapy. Everything between the two in separate rooms matched up in some way or other. Obviously enough for the CIA to make a documentation about all this. And normally we have a skeptic's corner the last 10 minutes.
Well, and the thing with this as well, I mean, since their encounter,
we can
Barney,
hit the aftermath.
What's yeah?
Here we go. Aftermath.
After all that, they did want to try to keep this out of really the public. They wanted to keep it amongst themselves, and unfortunately, that didn't happen. Barney pretty much, still till when he passed away from a stroke, kind of in a sense was, I'd say, denying it to an extent. But Betty, I mean, she died 2004 of cancer or whatnot. She went on to just, her family, knew of UFOs and things like that. So she had some little bit of knowledge. But after that incident and up until she died, she dove head first into the UFO industry, trying to hunt. Basically, became a UFO hunter, and trying to, I'd say, get more answers, or she had more of being abducted, or if I read that correctly, but yeah.
I will say this much: if in the 29 pages towards the back, the CIA has actually put clippings from German newspapers about the Betty and Barney Hill case. I wish I could read German a little bit better than I could.
And there are a couple books out on this.
Oh yeah, there's
a movie. So yeah,
I know. HBO Max has a great produced special. It's about an hour and 45 minutes. They've got a lot of the audio. They got some of the old video interviews with Betty and Barney. They kind of cover a lot of stuff on it. Now, mind you, we're only covering just a smidgen.
I was gonna say a small part of it.
Yeah, we only got an hour, and
this could have been an easy two-parter.
This could have been a three-parter. I only made out of 29 pages. There was a lot I skipped over. I am keeping the file though because it's entertaining. So, as is our tradition, Skeptic's Corner. It's basically the last 5 minutes. If anybody in the audience would like to question, we will try to debunk the situation.
Okay.
Give it a stab.
Well, let's throw this a little bit out here. Okay. You're talking early 60s. You're talking a interracial marriage. And back in the day, that stuff is not really tolerated. Barney and Betty were both in the what's the word is it? I'm looking for it here. Oh, wrong one. They were both in the civil rights, and Barney was really worrying about racism as a black man in the mid 20th century. It was a deep part of the encounter he was always worrying about, and Again, his wife is white, civil rights activist and a social worker. But, reading some of this, a lot of that stuff didn't seem like it played a whole lot big role in that. So I just kind of throw that out, but I just wanted to bring it out, being an interracial marriage back in the 60s.
So would you say?
I would have thought, they were at first, maybe trying to, they really didn't gain anything from this. They didn't make any money. I don't know. I first probably thought they were trying to, what's the words I'm looking for? Lost train of thought, but yeah. How do you like that? Another losing facts.
Yes, Tammy, that was a fast hour, and we did not cover all 29 pages of this report. I skipped a lot of this.
Yeah. But I do have problems with part of it, though, because, again, he was describing them wearing outfits. I just don't see aliens wearing outfits and a scarf. Maybe their vivid dreams became more of a, came to the forefront and just, fabricated a story and tried to get notoriety that way.
And for everybody listening at home, I have just posted the PDF link on DBK Investigations on Facebook. So everybody can go through and read all of those pages.
Right. Was there anything in there saying anything about alcohol or drugs?
They were tested, but nothing was found.
Okay. I don't know. What do you think?
I think if the CIA has got a file on them, a detailed file with German newspaper clippings, somebody knows something's going on. As I said before, do not go to CIA.gov and look at the unclassified documents. You will be awake all night long and you will start to question everything you have been told.
Dude, now I'm going to end up going to that site just to check it out. Don't tell us not to do something because everyone's going to do it.
Hey, I haven't found anything on the FBI website yet. That's where I'm going next. I know one of our past guests, Vic, said once upon a time, don't put out your real names, don't put out your location, but the fact that I've been on the CIA website and the FBI website, they probably already know where I am and they already know what I'm looking at. So I am sure that they already know what I'm doing.
Probably.
Hey, maybe they're tuned in. Maybe they'll give us some views. All right. Well, that is 9 o'clock. Next week is Travis Walton. After Travis Walton, we got the story of Communion, which is also another interesting movie about an alien abduction. The fourth week, we don't have an abduction case yet. We probably will, depending on what other cases I can find. Jade, if we can happen to find something in those hypnotherapy sessions for some of these people. Yes. We'll take turns reading it. Because, hey, why not?
Absolutely.
Until then, everybody, I'm the Doc.
I'm the king. We out of here?
We are out of here. Hold your cryptids close. We'll see you next week.